King Kale, the Uniter, has united the free states and established his rule in the capital city of Steelhaven. From its high walls, he has ushered in a period of peace and stability that has grayed his hair and lined his face. But there are whispers on the wind. A horde of warring Kurta are on the move, and at their head is a Lariam warlord whose eyes and will are bent on Steelhaven. This is the backdrop of Richard Ford's Steelhaven trilogy. The 3 books in the series are Herald of the Storm, The Shattered Crown, and Lord of Ashes. Before I get into the review, let me explain how I actually do reviews. Personally, I'm not a fan of a single rating for an entire series or book. Many books and series have strengths and weaknesses that a single score doesn't properly reflect. So for my reviews, I use a 5-star rating system, with the 5 being the highest, over 6 categories. And they are plot, world building, characters, magic system, writing, and enjoyment. But before I begin, these videos do take a lot of time to put together. So if you like the video, it would mean a lot to me if you subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Category 1, the plot. First off, the trilogy is told from the POV of several characters from different backgrounds and statuses, and honestly feels like it's from a game of D&D. Anyway, they are Masa Mabasi, a spy working for the Kurta, Princess Janessa, the young daughter of King Kale, Kyra Stormfall, a warrior from the Temple of Arena, Rag, an orphan cutpurse living on the streets, Noble Jax, a blacksmith with a violent past, Merrick Ryder, a smooth-talking conman with a propensity to drink himself stupid, River, an assassin with a dangerous secret, and Walian, an aspiring mage. As for the plot of Book 1, Herald of the Storm, well, that's the thing about the first book. Unlike most fantasy books where there's a quest that unites all the main characters to a centralized plot, there really is no centralized plot that ties all the characters together in the first book. Keywords there, though, are first book. Herald of the Storm juggles differing plot lines and for all the different characters, with the main goal of fleshing out each of the main POV characters. So let me touch on some of those plot lines. Keeping this spoiler free, Princess Janessa's plotline revolves around duty. We are told early on in the book that her father, King Kale, has left Steelhaven to deal with the looming threat of the Kurta horde, and her plotline revolves around her duty to Steelhaven in her father's absence. Kyra's plotlines revolves around loyalty. Rag's can be boiled down to survival and the lengths one will take to ensure it. Noble Jax is a strange one. His plotline touches on regret and unspoken words. Merrick Ryder honestly boils down to redemption. River's plotline is about conflicting loves, love of the heart versus love of family. And lastly, Wellens is one of perseverance. Book 2, The Shattered Crown, is very similar to Book 1 in that, again, there's a lack of focus on a centralized plot that ties all the characters together. Based on the world-shaping event that transpired in the first book, we as the reader know the eventual plot that will tie all these separate characters together. However, this book doesn't focus on it again. It keeps the plotline in the background, and instead focuses on the plotline and development of the trilogy's cast of characters that was started in the first book. So let me touch on those. In Book 2, Princess Janessa has to come to grips with the events of Book 1 and navigate the politics and schemes of those around her to do what's best for Steelhaven. Merrick and Kyra work together, have to acclimatize themselves to their new roles and responsibilities while also dealing with the betrayals of their past. Rag finds a place in the guild, thank mobsters, and must come to grip with the brutality of it. Noble Jax has to deal with the demons from his very, very bloody past, and Wellin continues to struggle with spellcasting while embarking on quest after quest for the Magisters in order to prepare Steelhaven for the darkness to come. We're also introduced to a group of half-man, half-animal Zanatani warriors who are on a quest to restore their valor. In Book 3, Lord of Ashes, we finally see the main plotline lurking in the background brought to the front and see how it ties all the characters together in the ensuing struggle. Like in most of my reviews, I can't go into a lot of details of the final book without spoiling the entire trilogy. But what I will say though is that it doesn't disappoint. The first 2 books in the trilogy, taking the time to flesh out the characters, really helps set the stage for the 3rd book. It makes some, and that's the key word there, of the characters' actions and motivations believable, so not too much of it feels like it came out of nowhere. But there's one thing I need to stress to you as a reader. The trilogy is called Steelhaven, and it's called that for a very specific reason. The story and its ending is all about Steelhaven and not the characters itself. What that means is that it does wrap up the story of Steelhaven at the trilogy's conclusion, but not so much for the characters within its walls. Now, my rating. 4 stars out of 5. Halfway through the first book, I wasn't sure how I felt about the lack of a centralized plot tying everything together. It felt like I was reading a collection of short stories set in the same world. But once the characters started to interact with one another and their threads tying them to the central plot became clearer, I really began to appreciate what the author did here. In most fantasy books, the author early on establishes the main central plot, and everything that the characters do is tied to that. Ford instead establishes the characters outside of the central plot. They're given the chance to develop outside the main plot, so when they eventually become ensnared by it, their actions feel more believable and organic because you as the reader has seen them develop over the trilogy. That being said, the thing holding me back from giving it 5 stars are some of the plot holes and Rag. Rag, of all the characters, is not believable at all after book 1. Her arc in book 1 is fine, but she doesn't make any sense in book 2 and 3 because it requires a reader to believe that hardened criminals would defer to a 13-year-old girl on criminal matters. Also, there is one scene in the 3rd book that is utterly dumb. Again, I don't want to spoil it for you, but you'll know it the moment you read it because it really stands out because of how out of place and baffling that it is. Category 2, World Building. I'll get my rating right out of the way. 4 stars out of 5. Long info dumps are the bane of my existence, and omniscient barkeeps or merchants should be a crime against humanity. Steelhaven is the world of this book, but instead of just telling us how it's such a cesspool, we see it through different lenses of the POV characters. The author shows it to us and doesn't just tell us. And Steelhaven itself feels so much more different from most fantasy worlds or cities. Too often in fantasy are the major cities too clean and static. Steelhaven, though, is a rough place that feels more grounded in reality than in fantasy. It's a welcome difference, hence 4 stars out of 5. Category 3, the characters. So rating first again, 3 stars out of 5. Due to the nature of how this book is written, I've discussed most of the characters already in the plot section. But in case you skipped that section fearing spoilers, just let me recap. We have again Mosa Mabasi, a spy working for the Kurta, Princess Janessa, the young daughter of King Kale, Kyra Stormfall, a warrior from the Temple of Arena, Rag, an orphan cut purse living on the streets, Noble Jax, a blacksmith with a Von Pass, Merrick Ryder, a smooth-talking con man with the propensity to drink himself stupid, River, an assassin with a dangerous secret, and Whalen, an aspiring mage. All the characters feel very different from each other, and that's an accomplishment. When you have this many characters in one trilogy, it is very easy to apply similar themes and motivations to some of them. But that's not the case here. All the characters are very different and unique. This is best seen by how they actually deal with their problems. Noble Jax, for instance, likes to meet his problems with a growl and a fist to the face, but someone like Merrick Ryder will try a jibe. But not all the characters hit the mark for me. Rag, again, is not believable all after book 1. And the one thing that sort of bothered me as I was reading this book was that the women characters suffer from the disease of don't need no man ascites. The women characters rarely need their male counterparts to help them, whether emotionally or physically, which is sort of eyebrow raising. The one time that one of the female characters did resulted in one of the dumbest scenes that I've ever read in fantasy in a long time. But again, overall, it's still a unique and interesting cast of characters, hence 3 stars out of 5. Category 4, the magic system. The magic system here is a bit different from what you would expect. Unlike traditional fantasy, it's not enough to just speak magic word and cool stuff happens. In Ford's world, there's a need for mechanical understanding. It's why, through Whalen, as he is our apprentice mage, we learn that the apprentice's studies include review of history and complex patterns that feel eerily similar to algebra. But most importantly, there's a give and take. To cast magic in this world, the user has to give a part of themselves. So for instance, you may cast a spell and it will result in you losing your teeth in the exchange. It's an interesting dynamic that I think is very unique. Because of that, I'm going to give it 4 stars out of 5. Category 5, the writing. 2 stars out of 5. First off, the first 2 books are littered with grammatical mistakes. I can understand 1 or 2 here or there, but there are a lot more than that. Also, the language is a bit excessive. Look, I don't have virgin ears or eyes, so seeing swearing or hearing swearing isn't off-putting to me. However, it is when it's excessive. It literally feels like some of the characters can't speak a single sentence without swearing multiple times. Outside of that, For's prose is serviceable, and he doesn't beat you over the head with flowery language. His action scenes are direct and violent, which adds to the violent themes of this world. Category 6. Enjoyment. 4 stars out of 5. There's a lot to enjoy about this trilogy. There's a unique magic system, a large cast of characters where you're bound to find someone that you enjoy, several interesting plotlines, and a satisfying conclusion. But there are a few issues that keep me from giving it the 5th star. Brag, for the 3rd time now, breaks my immersion. Also, some of the plotlines miss the mark, and the first book can feel a little off without the central plotline tying everything together. Also, the prose is a little bit too liberal with its use of profanity. Still, I think the good far outweighs the bad in terms of enjoyment, so 4 stars out of 5. So that's my review of the Steelhaven trilogy. I hope it helps you decide where it's a trilogy you want to invest your time into or not. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. And with that, I'll see you all in the next one.